Welcome to class, all you pickleball champs. You are in 252 4.0 doubles game film analysis. Today we are going to be analyzing the game posted by Pickle via his YouTube channel. So shout out to him, and if you haven't checked out his channel before, go take a look. Link is in the description of this video. If this is your first time here, this course is designed for players who want to get better and understand the game of pickleball at a much deeper level. If you are looking to improve your game, start playing tournaments, thinking of becoming a coach yourself, or want to simply stop losing and not understand why, this course is for you. This course is in-depth. It is game film analysis where we slow things down, pick play apart, and understand the mistakes which are holding people back from winning. Therefore, if this is what you have been looking for to take your enjoyment of pickleball to the next level, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of our future course videos. I'm your professor. Class is in session. First, let me introduce the players that we are going to be looking at today. Right here, holding the ball, let me just circle him. Black hat, black shirt, that is Pickle. On his partner, let me move up a couple frames. Bring his partner into queue. Right there in the black shirt, blue hat, that is Logan. And across the court from him is actually, that is Kevin, KV Flips, also of YouTube fame, right there. He is in the gray shirt and glasses. And last but not least, and in the bright purple shirt, we have Daniel, and let me go over each person's DUPR real quick. So right here we have 4.89 for Pickle. That is of the posting of the video originally to his YouTube page. Then Logan is a 4.76. We have Kevin sitting at, I believe, the lowest on the court, which is a 4.04, and his partner of Daniel at a 4.37. Okay, now with all that taken care of, let's back this all the way up and dive into this game. If this is your first time here, we do watch every point all the way through and then back it up so that we can see the point develop in real time. There's going to be quite a few shorter points in this. As we do in course 252, we're basing this off of the lowest person's rating. And since we have Kevin at a 4.0, that is why it is a part of this course. So, middle return here, going to his forehand, and Kevin makes an interesting decision. So, he returns the ball basically directly to the player already at the net. And he also returned it to his forehand. It may have been caught him a little off guard because Pickle is also right-handed, so no issue there. And so what we really want to do when we're dropping, about 90+% of the time, you want to go to the person coming up. As you can see, as he's impacting this ball, Logan hadn't quite made it up there. Now, I believe he will be already set by the time this ball arrives, but you normally have a little bit more leeway and don't have to be as exact. And so what occurs here is he hits not an awful drop. It just is probably not in the best spot. The worst mistake here is if we watch at point of contact, looking at the feet right here, they're still moving. He's not set. And as we talk about in other videos, we need to stop when the ball is crossing the plane of the net, which is in these frames right here. That's when the ball's crossing it. And because he doesn't, he takes 1 step, 2 step, 3-step to try and get to where this ball is at, and then isn't able to make a very good shot. The other decision, what happens all the time when you're moving your feet and you're not set and ready, is you take balls out of the air. Like he takes this ball out of the air. If he'd let this ball, if he had stopped, was ready, and able to move laterally, moving these directions, he could have let that ball bounce and then taken a nice, calm fifth shot drop and helped him and his teammate get up to the net. It seems very apparent that Pickle and Logan may decide to target Kevin. Okay, let's jump on into the next point. We'll watch this point all the way through. Okay, he does miss that. Little sign's going to come up here in a second. But let's back that up and analyze this. So, right off the bat, I'm not really liking how Kevin is hitting his returns. Pretty loopy ball and very slow to get up there. I mean, as you can see, he's probably, the camera angle here is very low, which is sometimes tough, but it looks like he is at least 3 feet behind the kitchen line, in my opinion, when he's volleying that ball. It does appear that he has decent height. And a risky shot by his partner here obviously goes well wide, definitely risked the ATP, and Kevin doesn't really even move to cover it. If Pickle had been able to hit it, I think he would have, easily won the point. I'm just backing this up to see if there's anything else we really want to look at. So let's look at Pickle's team, what's occurring here. So right now they are in the same area. And that's one thing we want to avoid when moving up, because the thing that it does is it freezes our teammate if they're in the same line, because now they got to decide, am I hitting that ball or are you hitting that ball? And what they do, it turns them into spectators instead of players. And so let's back this up. Let's watch this. Right here, this is Logan. Logan takes his first step in, basically behind his teammate when his teammate's about to hit the ball. If we back this up, the ball does come right here. We're watching Pickle's feet. Watch right here. Pickle realizes, we're just going to watch those feet. That frame, he knows I'm going to hit this ball. You can see it right there in the feet. The feet are always going to be the tell and give it away. So right here, he knows I'm taking this ball. Okay? At that same moment, as we can, in case you're having any problem picking up where the ball is, I'm just going to back up a couple frames because it's kind of going into this light area. So it is approximately right here. When I move forward in a couple of these frames, it's going right through that yellow spot. Okay? And so, let me erase that. And so that is well on the other side of the net. That is when Logan needs to start moving up here, and he needs to get to zone 2. Real quick here for those who are watching for the first time. The baseline is what we call zone 1. Right in the middle is what we call zone 2. Kitchen line we call zone 3. We keep this stuff real simple. So Logan needs to get up to zone 2. When should Logan arrive at zone 2? He should be at zone 2 right here at the point of impact. So if I clean this up a little bit, just going to clean that up so we can very clearly see. This is approximately, maybe right about there is the middle. So he's 6 to 9 feet behind where he should be, and which would also, his partner chose to drive it. On a drive, we want to be at least at zone 2 at the time of impact, moving forward to zone 3 because we need to put pressure on the drive. there is no benefit almost to driving unless you're going to play down to the level of your opponent if your partner isn't going to move in and put pressure. Quick reminder, the quality of the drive is not actually on the person who hits it. It is on the pressure the partner puts on the drive. For example, Piccoli hit a good drive here. He probably hit it hard. He's playing with a modern paddle. I haven't looked exactly what model, but definitely looks like it has plenty of force. And Kevin, who is the lowest ranked player on the court, who's not even at the kitchen line, volleyed this ball back, didn't even have to keep it very low, and made Piccoli back up because Logan is now just a spectator. He's not even involved in the match. And so right now, when you have those situations, you got basically a 2-on-1 scenario, not what we want to do. We have to hit and improve. And when we say hit and improve, we are talking about both people on the court always have to be improving. Logan hasn't improved on, we're going to back this up. He didn't improve on the third. And look at this. He doesn't improve at all on the fifth. And he sees he's not hitting it. Doesn't improve here. Then moves over and see how that is Daniel. Daniel, almost no pressure, nonchalant, just, hey, I'm going to go left. No one's even up here. He's basically trying to, put the ball where they can't get it. And it worked out for them in their favor. Fun little note on the video that Piccoli put up on his YouTube channel. Okay, moving on over. This is now Piccoli's turn to serve. Let's watch this point all the way through. I'm going to back that up. I just need to see it. It does bounce. Once again, camera angle is not the best. Complete mishit by Kevin. So let's look at this. Okay, now that we've backed up, we watched it all the way through. One, I just want to point out, pretty obvious, we've squished these. Piccoli is serving all the way over here by the tee, right? And that is squishing him and his partner into this size of court, okay? And I'm going to draw this all the way up from his foot. So everything here is the area that they're currently guarding. And he basically has all this court that is almost unguarded. And the bigger part about what I do with the blue and the red here is basically everything. I'm going to add yellow. It's actually even worse than you guys think. Basically right around here, everything that's now yellow and blue is Piccoli's backhand. So you do not want to squish all the way over when serving. This isn't tennis. This is doubles pickleball. And when you're serving, you want to be here to give space for your partner. When you're on the opposite side, you want to be here all the way to the corner. And basically think of this area as the no X zone. We do not want to be serving from there. And one, adding more space, that's our backhand. Two, when Piccoli serves this ball, he theoretically needs to move this way and then be hitting a moving laterally or moving laterally backwards backhand, the hardest shot in pickleball. And he's forcing that and making it more likely that that's going to occur the better players he plays because he's serving near the tee. Okay, so just a little positioning issue there that I think Piccoli would find himself hitting more, getting to hit more drives, getting more drives in, hitting more drop shots in and easier just by shifting how he likes to serve on that side. Okay, now we're going to move this forward. So once again, not a great job by Logan here to notice that. These guys are squished. And what does he do? He hits it right back to him. If you are in this position, all you want to do is put every return right over here and basically keep doing that until your opponent proves that they can very advancedly deal with that. Okay. So because also, here's another thing I'm just going to point out. Because of Piccoli's serving style, so we're going to back this up and just watch this again. What I mean by serving style is his one foot is very close to the line, and when he follows through, his actual foot goes into the court, and he has to then move backwards. Okay? What is more efficient and better, trust me, I know there are plenty of pros out on the tour that serve this way. Some of them even make it even harder themselves. If he backed up this far, at least, I would actually prefer Piccoli being back approximately this far, because if he has his first foot here and his second foot moves forward and ends here, he doesn't have to then come backwards. He is getting to have one decision, waiting for it to bounce, and he's moving in this direction. The reason I point all that out, here we go. We're just going to move this forward. He's on, look, he even had to move back, and he's still right in the line. So if a ball lands right here, anywhere deep, he's now having to go this direction, and we're going to really see that happen on this point. So not even that deep of a ball. Look how there was this much more space that ball could have come. And watch how Piccoli still has to hit this. He's going up and kind of bouncing on the ball. And when we bring this foot up, what we're essentially trying to do is hit a low lob. It's a very uncontrolled shot. It will normally sail on you, and that's exactly what happens to Piccoli. It sails, and he's just fortunate that he's playing somebody that is significantly lower of ability. But right now, like that's what we said, everyone's DUPRs to begin with, and he makes a complete unforced error whiff on the ball, which we're going to get to. But this is absolutely what you do not want to see your legs doing when you're trying to hit drop shots. It really will, you will get punished at the higher level once balls start coming back harder on returns because you don't have that control. Pointing out real quick before we move on, once again, Logan completely not a part of this. If Kevin had hit this ball, the point most likely would be over. Okay, so now let's go in and look at Kevin. So number one issue is Kevin's legs are way too straight. He is not down in an athletic stance. What we talk about on this channel a lot of times, other coaches use terms like bend your legs. I've learned if you've ever played any sport of any kind, at some point a coach told you bend your knees, right? Bend your knees. In pickleball, I don't like using the term bend your knees. I use the term sit down because that's actually, this game is about getting so low it feels, and the entire mechanics are about sitting down. So one thing that Kevin is doing correctly is his feet appear, at least from this camera angle, to be just slightly wider than his shoulders. So at least they're wider than his shoulders. I would like to see Kevin's feet even further apart, and he needs to go down at least 30+% so that he is reaching out further. The reason he missed this ball is because he's standing up so straight. I'm going to do our beautiful stick figures here. He's standing up very, very straight. And so his arm can't go out as far, or he would feel the pull forward into the kitchen. Okay? And what you also see with some people, Kevin's not doing this right now, but just want to show this as an example. Some people lean at the waist, and then they keep their knees straight, and they are always feeling the lean into the kitchen, and they make a lot of unforced errors because they also will not reach out and hit the ball out here in front of them. They wait for the ball to come back, and they hit the ball on their side more in this area. And so what we say that is tall people can play short, and short people can play tall. And the lower you get, the taller you get a play. because you get to reach out. And so what we want to see from Kevin is we want to see him sitting down and getting his butt back. And what that does is it moves, or if he was standing up straight, his center of gravity would be right here. And what we're going to do by moving it back with the knees bent, so I'm going to change this as we want. There we go. His center of mass is moved back, which allows him to then extend his arm to max out and catch the ball out here. And therefore, the ball hasn't dropped as far as he thinks it is. That ball's coming down like this, and that's why he missed, because his arm isn't at this position. So, whoop, there we go. There's my eraser. And not trying to go too much into a single error mistake, but the posture is really showing it on this one. You can't be standing this tall and taking the ball on the side, or you're just going to have these errors where you're like, why don't I have more control? I will say he's swinging hard enough that his wrist does lag back, but the follow-through very much shows that it appears he is going to be using a lot of wrist throughout the match. I know this is an early point, so let's move on to the next one, and we'll see how if those issues continue. Okay, let's watch this one all the way through. Get into our first dink battle of the game. Okay. Backing it all the way up. Let's break this down. So not a hard serve by Piccoli. Normally you don't get as hard of serves when you are stacking. And I would like to say it's a little late, but Piccoli starts to move forward. He decides, I'm not going to hit this, and he takes one step, two step, and so he's not where we would prefer him to be, but it was a decent return. Just a quick reminder, we want to see Piccoli at zone 2 at the time of impact, and he is significantly behind that. So then he's trying to make up ground. He sees and likes the drop, and so he's charging and then having to ultra break. Good thing it was a good drop, and his opponent isn't ultra aggressive. If I believe it is Daniel, if Daniel had moved and fired the ball, I think Piccoli is a pretty open target to go after. One of the other reasons I say that is because when you're running in, a lot of times people's arms go down as their body gets lower and ready, and so that paddle is not in a good spot if the ball was sped up. But as we can see, Piccoli gets all the way up to the kitchen line, and then Logan eventually gets up there, waiting and taking the fifth. I also don't really like how little ground right here. This is the third. I know we're backing. I'm going through this slowly. That is the third. Logan basically hits this ball, and the entire time the ball is on their side of the net until about there, he doesn't move forward. We need to be moving forward while the ball is on our side of the net, because as you can see, he's having to hit an extra difficult ball and barely makes it, tips off the net to get him up and playing at the kitchen. I just wanted to see this. I don't hate this cross-court dink, but I am just going to point something out. This is something we try. Ooh, it looks like it also tipped off the net right there. Okay. So this is, remember, this is Daniel. Daniel hit the ball essentially at Piccoli's left leg. Okay. And then, so I'm just going to mark this here. So we're just putting a little check mark there. That's a little check mark for 1. He hits it right to that leg. As you can see, stays on that leg, goes cross court, and then this decision, he goes back at that same leg. As we can see, ball lands almost in the same spot right there, and now he's gone 2 to the same leg. When you do that and you're playing higher level people, they now haven't had to move their body very much, which gives them time and rest and the ability to be ready to then attack. Even though it's not the world's greatest attack, even though it's a backhand attack, that is the thing that occurs. And if we were sitting here watching the pros, what we would see much more often is we go after this leg, and what Daniel could have or should have done is go after the right leg if he still wanted to go across court. So what we would like to see here, I'm going to just forward this in advance, we would much prefer to see the ball, even though it's a forehand, we'd like to see the ball coming somewhere in this direction. I'm also not opposed to right here, which is the backhand of Logan. Sometimes when you're on the left-hand side, you need to remember, by you hitting to your opponent's left-hand side, you're theoretically hitting the ball to the stronger player, which may not be helping you out. And with that, Logan gets to attack the weakest, not Logan, sorry. Piccoli gets to attack the weakest player on the court, and Kevin's paddle is not ready. Now, let's just talk about paddle ready position. The most important thing in a paddle position is, and it's one of the things that a lot of people forget, is it needs to be, the butt of the paddle needs to be above the belly button. Oop, I'm going to do that in blue. There's our little belly button right there. Okay? And so I'm just going to draw out a paddle here with my beautiful art skills. Look at this amazing paddle. Clearly a Selkirk. And so some people want to have it flat like that. That's fine. We do not get in an argument over that. And some people like having it up like this. Also not going to get in about. We do not care about the height of the head of the paddle as long as it's not going in a downward motion. We don't have a problem with that. So completely horizontal or up is fine. The issue is the butt of the paddle needs to be above the belly button, because when it's not above the belly button, the net, you are guarding the net with your paddle. Okay, and this is a great example of this. So where is, I'm going to use yellow because he's wearing a gray shirt. Approximately right there is Kevin's belly button. His hand and paddle are clearly below it. Number two, his paddle is nowhere near a neutral position and or following the ball. He actually does an okay job right here. He's following the ball and is super late on figuring that out, because he is keeping the ball on his left side. Okay, so he's keeping it here. This is where neutral would be. And that, once you see that, better players see where the paddle is and they attack the opposite side because it just takes longer to get there. But in my honest opinion, the biggest issue for Kevin is he needs to be wider and much lower, expecting a speed up anytime the ball comes directly in front of him. I think this is a good time to talk about blocker workhorse. And so right now, when Kevin's partner, Daniel, hits the ball here, he has turned Kevin into the blocker. This is Kevin's world. All he's looking for is a speed up. That's all he has to deal with. There isn't anything else in his world. He is the blocker. Daniel has made himself, by where he put the ball, he has made himself the workhorse. So he has to cover everything back here. He has to cover lobs over Daniel. He's got to cover basically even dinks over here, everything, because Daniel turned Kevin into the blocker. And Kevin's paddle and stance, he's literally even just leaning to it. He's literally leaning this way. He's not even balanced, ready to take that ball. The other thing I would point out is, given where the ball is, I'm going to back this up a couple frames after I erase that. People ask about court position all the time. So let's do court position at point of impact. I'm going to do the frame before impact so that we can see the ball. Ball's right here. Okay. There's an anchor on the court, and the anchor shifts from essentially one baseline to the other baseline if the ball is not directly in the middle, and that is Kevin needs to be the anchor and feel the pull of guarding this line. So his backhand would need to reach and cover over that line. Clearly, in this position where he's at, it is not going to cover that line. And so I'm just going to erase this and put Kevin where he should be. So Kevin should be approximately here. And I would even like his feet to be that wide. And then his paddle, if this is Kevin, nice and tall Kevin, his paddle theoretically could reach over that line. Well, then the other side of his paddle would be touching the paddle of his teammate, and his teammate's foot should be on this side. I know we're having some block here, but it would be, if this was a mirror image, this area is where Daniel, guy in the purple shirt, his foot and positioning should be. And all of that is because the ball is here. The middle of the court and where it changes based on where the ball is because of where you can hit it and attack. And that is the biggest thing on why we shift in those positions. So Kevin doesn't go to where he needs to be, and therefore Daniel also doesn't get to where he needs to be. I'm not saying that played a significant role in this, but it definitely left, because Kevin is here and also off tilt and not right here where his paddle could cover this. He exposed a significant more portion of the court to his backhand, which Piccoli was easily able to attack and puts the ball in, and that's not even that intense of a speed up. Okay, we talked a lot about on that point. Let's move on to the next one. We'll watch this one all the way through. Okay, short point there. Let's just back that up real quick. Okay, so what I like about what Daniel's doing here is I like how far back he is from the baseline. So he only has one decision, which is to move forward through the ball. And he actually has pretty good footwork. He takes 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps at impact. That's kind of the goal, is to get 3 good steps in ahead of time. I think in, once again, this situation, I'm not exactly why he is not aiming here, which would also give him the ability to hit the ball higher over the net and take less risk and attack his opponent's backhand. It looks like he attempts to go straight up the line as if they're trying to attack Logan, and he just catches the ball wrong. But I do believe that he gave himself a kind of small window on this. I think he may have been caught a little off guard on the bounce. It doesn't bounce up very much, but that is pickleball. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We're going to watch this one all the way through. Okay. So, yep, very clearly Daniel and Kevin are trying to get the ball to Logan. Nice deep return there. Probably Kevin's best hit of the game right there. And what we do have, moving up a little too slow, but Pickle Lee, highest DUPR rating on the court, is showing one of the reasons why his rating is higher, because he's moving up and hitting and improving even when his partner hits the ball. He's not quite to zone 2, but he is taking ground, anticipating, and trying to then going to be putting pressure on the opponent. Obviously, just a very bad drop by Logan, and since it's off camera, I can't see it. Not a lot else that we can discuss here. The only thing that I'm going to say is right here is probably the first main error. Look how Logan moved up, and then what he has to do is go all the way back, and he's clearly hitting this while moving backwards, and we don't want to do that. And so that is the thing that's both affecting Pickle Lee and Logan's game is bad court position, and so they're just making the game harder for their third shots a lot of the time. And so if they were actually making those shots easier, they would be hitting a much higher percentage. The example I love to give when I see somebody in the wrong court position and then having to now fall back to hit a third shot drop is, think about basketball. You're at the foul line, the free throw line. You're sitting there, you're dribbling, you're looking at the hoop. There's no one's allowed to guard you. You can take all the time you want, and it's a free shot. That's what they're called. And you literally decide to jump backwards away from the hoop when shooting that shot. Like, nobody does that. Why would you do that? And that's exactly what you're doing here. It does also look, in my opinion, that ridiculous when people choose to be in the wrong court position for no reason. Okay. The nice thing about this video is Pickle Lee is putting the score up there, so it's 3-0, and it's Kevin's turn to serve. So let's move on to the next one, and we're going to watch this one all the way through. Well, Kevin may have just gotten away with one. Let's take a look at this again. We're going to back that up. I think he got away with one. I know it's real close, but that does look just past the line on the center ball. Too close for Logan to call and help his teammate out. And they switch across. Okay, lots of learning opportunities here. So let's look at this. One, Pickle Lee does the right decision, and he returns the ball straight ahead. Okay, and just a reminder for anybody who hasn't seen this before, when we're unwinding a stack, and you should really have these zones of, hey, where do I want to hit it? We do letters when we're going left to right, and we do numbers when we're going north and south. And so we have 4 zones. I just put lines to split up. So this is A, B, C, and D. And when we always do this from the returner's perspective. And so he's trying to hit the ball into D, C, if he can't quite control it enough. He absolutely does not want to go across here and go to B or A. Okay, so let me do this real quick. I'm going to erase this so we can see the ball where it lands. Moving forward. And it's probably just on the line or just on the C side of it. And so Kevin decides, I'm going my forehand. Kevin's left-handed. They have both forehands down the middle. So there's zero benefit to doing this, and we're going to utilize this, and I may have to draw here on this side of why this makes absolutely no sense. But Kevin goes forehand and goes drive to try and put pressure on because Logan's unwinding the stack, and about right here, they're in an I formation. I have no problem with the Kevin Daniel team driving the ball on an unwinding stack. Go for it. Try and put pressure on them. You can see that Pickle Lee is late to the kitchen, has to take a low volley, doesn't get a lot on it, but he gets it over to that huge hole of Kevin's backhand, and that's all he had to do. Pickle Lee basically took no risk. Okay, so let's back this up again and take a look at it. So one, if Daniel, purple shirt, had moved forward to hit this ball, he would have been further onto the court. And if Kevin had realized, hey, they're hitting the ball to Daniel and he's going to drive the ball, he could have come all the way up here to the kitchen and put pressure and made it more difficult for Pickle Lee to even hit the ball and or keep it low. And so as we go forward here, even with Kevin's shot, I just want to show this real quick. We're going to assume if Daniel had hit it that Kevin would be approximately here, low ready, putting pressure on it. We're just going to move forward. Boom. Look at that ball. It's going right to him, and he would have then been able to hit a ball and put it basically anywhere he wants to put away, but most likely he would have had this huge area right here to put it into Pickle Lee's backhand and win the point easily because of his improved court position. Okay, now I'm going to have to move over to this side and draw it so that we can actually see it. Well, maybe I'll try. Okay, people say forehands down the middle. This is the best example of this. Is you have two people that have forehands down the middle. So right now we have this whole area, because get this to go straight, that is now an exposed backhand of Kevin's because he chose to come over and take the forehand. Which, once again, he took a forehand to take away a forehand. He didn't even take away his partner's backhand. And so that adage of forehands in the middle applies at the kitchen in pickleball, unlike tennis where there's like forehands down the middle. That is a saying that comes from tennis. It's been said for years and years and years and years in tennis. And it doesn't apply at the baseline because court position is so much more important in pickleball and not leaving yourself exposed because the ball comes back so much faster. And if, I'm just going to use this one as an analogy, if Daniel, purple shirt, was also left-handed, let's just walk through this, okay? And he had taken this ball with his backhand, he'd be approximately here. This entire part of the court would be his forehand. This entire part of the court would then be Kevin's forehand, and he would have just hit a backhand shot, leaving an equal amount. And even if the ball is a little bit over on this side, which it was about here, then he stepped in and made his backhand even smaller, and the forehand side increased, and it's easier to move. Everyone basically agrees it's easier to move laterally and hit a forehand than it is to hit a backhand because of the additional reach that you have and people's preference for that. And so these are just basic mistakes that are occurring from the kind of Kevin and Daniel team that just allows a player to take no risk, have no pressure, and easily put the ball away, because what they're doing is the error is here. The error is not here of him not being able to get a ball skipping away from him, fifth shot reset. Very difficult for anybody to hit that shot, let alone somebody at his level. And so what we need to do when playing, especially at this 4.0 level, and if you're trying to improve to the 4.0 level, is keeping your court position and increasing the percentage of shot that you're able to hit as you work on your technique and skill. That's what's going to allow you to win more points and move up a lot quicker. Playing smarter, not harder. Okay, hopefully we all learned from that one. Let's move on to the next one. We're going to watch this point all the way through. Ugh. Just back this up. So we don't talk very much about technique on this channel. And when we have done it in the past on every point, the videos got unbelievably long. But I do just want to point out that Logan's wrist position on the backhand is very, very straight, and he's losing a ton of power and control primarily because of his wrists. His wrists should be compressed. I'm going to get away from blue here. 1 second. I'll get to red. His wrists should be compressed like this. So imagine this is your arm. That's your arm right here. I'm just going to redraw this. Okay. We have a hand, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers. Looks like a Ninja Turtle hand. That's kind of brutal. And then this is the arm. Okay. And I'll even do this. There's your bicep and tricep. Okay. So now I'm going to erase that, and we're just going to say that we have a wrist, right? And then this is the protruding part from the wrist. Now, when something impacts this, the ball traveling this direction impacts anywhere here, the first hinge that's going to move is right here, that part, the opposite side of the wrist, okay? That will take the energy and deflect some. Therefore, if we take the wrist and we compress it like a car spring, and we have it, that's whatever your max is, this is now it being compressed. And I'm doing it this way because of the backhand side. It would be the opposite on the forehand side. And so we compress that wrist down. Now, there's no more that this wrist can go back because we have compressed it. So when we impact here, this is a strong surface and the ball is going to come off harder. And so what you see at the pro level is even when they've followed through, this L, some people used to call it a V. I always didn't see it much. If you're flexible enough to get to a V, congratulations. I can only be flexible enough to get to an L, but I do believe most people are more of an L. So if you can get to this, that doesn't break all the way through the follow through, and that's when you have players you play with or play against, and you're like, man, how can they put the ball exactly where they want? It is because their wrist is compressed, and that's where control comes from. And so I just wanted to point that out real quickly on this backhand of Logan. And one of the reasons as this slows down, as you can see, for most people, when they have this kind of 2 fingers up on the paddle, the tendon running through your wrist and up to your arm that controls those fingers is therefore stretched and tight, and it makes it more difficult to compress that wrist, or it just feels more uncomfortable, and therefore you won't do it as much. And so that's just something to look at. Very soft, very rough form, and then he gets up. The other situation on this ball, I like this drop. I like Daniel choosing to hit to the guy coming up, and they're also attacking the weaker player here. This worked out good for them. This shot is just paddle up. Whether Logan let the ball bounce or not, I don't know if we have that much data. I think he could have gotten the ball out of the air, but we have 2 people back here, and we have 2 people at the kitchen line. And so as we've talked about in other videos, we call this a +2. Why do we call it +2? Because Pickle, you get a +1 because you're in an advantage position, a +1 advantage position because you're at the kitchen line and your opponent isn't. Logan is at the kitchen line and his opponent isn't, so he gets a +1. So +1 plus +1 is a +2. And so these 2 guys, they're on offense, right? And they should hit offensive shots. And so we're just going to play this in real speed here. Does that look like an offensive shot? I'm just backing it up again. That is very clearly not an offensive shot. He's hitting the ball super soft and basically inviting them up to the net. When you're in an offensive position, we want to hit offensive shots. When we're in a defensive position, we want to hit defensive shots. And so this is most of the time mistakes on the court occur when you're hitting offensive shots, when you're in a defensive position, and when you're in a defensive let me rephrase that. When you're in an offensive position, you're hitting defensive shots, or if you're in a defensive position and hitting offensive shots, you are taking risk that you shouldn't be, or you are giving your opponent an easier time than you should be. And so this ball should be getting hit back, attacking the feet of the opponent. Both of them are moving past when the ball is crossing the net. That is a perfect time to speed it up at them and hit them. If, because of him getting there, he felt like he got late, I feel like he gets there in plenty of time. He should have been reaching much further out, taking this ball higher and more at a max reach. He could have been hitting it probably at net level or slightly above. And even if he couldn't, then he should have let the ball bounce and then hit a strong forehand in a particular direction. Okay. I think we all learned some valuable stuff from that point. Let's move on to the next one. And we're going to watch this one all the way through. Daniel serving again. Okay, let's back this up. Okay, Piccoli once again being smart, returning straight ahead. Doesn't matter who the person is, choosing to return straight ahead. I will say that Daniel has very high drops, and as you can see here from just the follow through, this is one of the dead giveaways. Watch his fall through and how far up his hand comes. What he's essentially doing is has the mental process of I'm hitting a short lob, and a drop shot is not a short lob. He's full swinging at that and putting it into the air. What that causes is the ball to bounce up really high like this, and then your opponent can just hit it hard at you. And so I can't get all the way into the technique, but you can see, watch Daniel's left foot retract back to him. That's a telltale sign that he is leaning back. And so that also means with this, he's leaning back into it. All the weight's on the right foot, and he's lobbing the ball up, which then he has to reset himself right there with that second step before he can move forward. So he hits this lob, and he only got about 3-4 feet into the court before the ball is coming back. So a lot of bad things that are occurring. We want to be moving forward. We want a technique that automatically moves us forward, because that's the whole reason we're hitting a drop shot. If you're not going to move forward, never hit a drop shot. Now, I'm not saying Daniel didn't move forward. I'm just saying there's the first step where he was able to move forward, and the ball is like there now crossing the plane of the net. So he didn't get one step all the way completed before the ball crossed the net. And so that's just going to make the game a lot harder, because he's going to have to hit more good shots to get all the way to the kitchen. And the more shots you have to hit statistically, just on, hey, if you hit 60%, 70%, even 80% good shots, well, if you have to hit that over and over and over again, you're just going to then make more errors. Okay? Let's just look at this one real quick. Okay, so Piccoli returns the ball back, and we can't see it because of the camera angle, but it looks like that Daniel short hops this ball, puts it very high again, and basically sees that, oh man, this ball is going to come back hard, and tries to reset and get ready for it. Logan, because of his backhand, again, very soft backhand, awful footwork. Look at his feet completely together, standing on his tippy toes, hitting this, getting no power into this ball, but gets away with it because Kevin gives him a pop-up, and then he gets to smash it on him. Okay? So right here, I believe that a court position issue occurs. For one, right there on this cross step for Daniel, when Daniel steps this way, it's very easy to see they are now in line. Okay? There is absolutely no reason that they should be in line, because Daniel's now hit 2 shots. So at this point of contact, you see Kevin start to come up. Okay? We see it. That's at point of impact. He should already be at zone 2, not starting to come up. He should already be at zone 2 and then getting to make a decision of how good is the shot and what is he going to do after that. But he gets low here, and he's very close to actually being there. And it's like, okay. And that's where a lot of people get confused, because you should have already been here and then being able to put more pressure on the opponent. It's not about being here when the ball is coming back. It's about being there and being able to decide what the next thing to do. The only time we really stay here at zone 2 is if it's an awful shot, super high, and then they're just crushing it at you. You have no time or ability to move forward. This is zone 2 is not a ending position. It is a get there and pause position, and then decide if we got a red light, green light, or yellow light situation based off of the quality of the ball. From this drop right here, and it bounced, we had a green light. We had a great drop. Kevin needs to put more pressure on it, and he should be past zone 2 in that situation. And so I'm just going to make this very clear. I don't want any confusion on this part. Okay, I'm going to do it over here so we have a better, and I'm going to just mirror everything. So Kevin, I'm going to put Kevin in blue. So we have our blue stick figure. Kevin's here. Kevin hits a drop shot. He's hitting it that way. Sorry, Daniel. Kevin in yellow over here should have been here at impact. Then when he sees the ball that it's going to be low, and that is when the ball is traveling this way, he's like, oh, that's going to be a good, they're going to let that bounce. That's going to be a good shot. Since he's already at 2 at the point of impact, he should at least get to 2.5 by the time the ball is crossing the plane of the net. And some people ask about why doesn't he just go to 3, all that kind of stuff. Or what about he can't leave his partner behind? As we see, Daniel hit the ball from back here, or maybe a little bit further, and he moved forward to, let's say, 1.5, right? So there's still the equivalent if Kevin moved up. I'm just erasing this to make this a little bit easier for everyone to see, because I know we got a lot going on here. I have to redraw my guys. So if we have Daniel here at 1.5, then we can have Kevin here at 2.5, and he is in front of Daniel only by 1 zone apart, the equivalent of 1 zone apart. And that's what we want. How much more pressure would Pickle or Logan feel if the very nice tall Kevin was here putting pressure on him? Then he's literally turning Pickle of saying, hey, you're playing skinny singles now. Hit it that way. Or hit it at me and I'm going to crush it at you. And so that's what we really want to do, and why Daniel and Kevin are having such a tough time scoring points in the early part of this match. Also, here, no one closes off. Logan has no pressure, can hit any shot he wants. And because Kevin isn't where he should be, and he's hanging out in 2, and now when they're in the same line, which once again we've talked about, but his feet are exposed. His feet are so much more exposed right now. And literally Logan took a no-risk shot and got to hit the ball right into his feet, which he doesn't swing this foot back like a door to buy himself time to keep this ball low. He short hops it, and that is pop-up central time, and the point is over. So I know I took a little time to get to where the mistake in this point really is for Kevin and Daniel. It is occurring because of they aren't getting to where they need to be to then set themselves up for success and help out their partner be able to not have as much pressure put on them, but they need to be applying the pressure. Okay, that was a good learning opportunity there. Let's move on to the next one. We're going to watch this point all the way through. Just wanted to look at this one last time just because it went quick. Yeah, It's long. Good call. Okay, moving on. Okay. So Logan serve, I'm just backing this up. Very short, soft return. It feels like, here's one thing I want to say. If you're a 3-5 or a 4-0 level player and serve returns are not the best part of your game, stacking is going to be very difficult. The concept is easy, but if because you have a tough time controlling, you have to very much take all the pace off when you're trying to control where you're hitting your return, because that is the most important thing. Kevin is doing the right thing here. He is trying to return down the line. Now, I don't know if he knows he's trying to return down the line because they're unwinding the stack or if he's just trying to get it to Logan. Can't tell you. I'm not inside his head. But if it is affecting you when you're trying to either A, return it straight ahead because you're unwinding a stack, or when you're trying to target a specific player, if you're not able to hit full strokes, it is better for you to not worry about hitting it and trying to isolate a player, but taking and hitting better balls with less pressure on yourself until your technique of returns improves from drilling, because then you're giving these kind of invite up balls, whether Pickley decided to drive that or drop it. He decided to drop it. It still got them to the kitchen line in a complete invite up, and now we're going into a very short hands battle, which occurs for most times you're at a 50-50, and you don't want to get into 50-50s in this example of this game because the opponents are not levelly matched. Every hands battle is pretty much ending in Pickley and Logan's advantage, and that will happen sometimes, normally around technique and that kind of stuff. Like, I don't think that ball would have gone out. And so that shows you how slow Pickley is even putting the ball to Kevin. He's basically giving him bait balls. And I would keep, if I was Pickley, I would be doing the exact same thing because he is watching a core technique issue. And that is what we're going to talk about right now. Okay. Once again, we are now going to zoom in and focus on the paddle of Kevin. Watch how his paddle, one, is already below his belly button. The butt of the paddle is already below the belly button. It is going to go down. From here, it goes even lower, and it's on the left side of his body. Now, I know he's left-handed, but it is not neutral. This is where neutral would be, somewhere in that range. It is very far to his side, okay? Which that tells every player, just get the ball anywhere over here. He's going to be late coming across, okay? And the reason we talk about the butt of the paddle needing to be at or above the belly button so much is because when the paddle is low and the paddle needs to come up, it's going to need to come up to get to the ball. There's basically one of two things are going to happen. You're going to do it in a single motion sweeping up, which if the paddle is moving up, the ball is then going to go up, and you just gave your opponent the pop-up. Number two, what happens is you swing the paddle up, and this happens for a lot of people at this level. They have to bring the paddle up, and they don't want to keep bringing it up, so they got to try and get it there early, and then they're going to try and bring it down. Well, what that means is they have to open the wrist. The paddle was facing, I'm trying to think of how best to draw this. If the paddle faces, let's do it this way. So here's my paddle. We're going this direction with it. This is about the worst drawing ever, okay? The paddle is going to rotate back like a slicing backhand, and the paddle is going in a downward motion. If they don't open the paddle face in a slicing motion, we all know, we've hit a bunch of balls before, it's just going to go, trying to get my pen, it's just going to go straight down into the net. And so, one, you have a technique of A, a pop up, or a B, you didn't open it up enough because you're trying to hit it hard and you're trying to put it away with your opponent and timed it wrong and it goes straight into the net. And so that is, we don't want this chopping motion from either the backhand side or the forehand side. Where I see it most often occurring is on the backhand side. And what that's occurring is let's get our stick figure. Here's our stick figure. Here's his legs. Okay, let's see how we can explain this. We want the paddle up, and we want it, if it's a forehand, we compress the wrist first, and then we go find the ball. If it is a backhand, I'm going to compress the wrist the other way first, and then I'm going to go find the ball. But we are very level. Number two, we want to have our knees bent so that the ball is, our paddle is slightly, and I say ever so slightly, it's more even to the ball's coming. Okay, let's say the ball is there and it's traveling along this path. Okay, there's our ball. We want to be able to go from a high to low prep position to then go back high. And the reason we do that is always low to high is to be able to put top spin on the ball, having it go that way, having the top spin on the ball, which has the ball travel like this and go land in the court. It goes over the net into the court. What is occurring in these situations is we're doing the exact opposite. We are starting in a low position. We are then having to go up to the ball, and then we are chopping down at it. So we're doing the exact opposite thing. And so what we need for Kevin to do, free lesson for Kevin right here, is we need Kevin's, I'm going to back it up, so Kevin's paddle right here, Kevin's paddle needs to be here, it needs to be up, and it needs to be ready for the speed up, okay? And since it's ready for the speed up here, if it comes this slow, his paddle can either just directly forward punch the ball, that would be arm, wrist, compressed, and literally completely linearly just punch the ball straight back because the ball is over the net. Hopefully you guys can see that. As I move forward here, once again, the opponent had to hit the ball up over the net right here. See how high that ball is over the net? You don't need to swing down at it. He could just swing directly linear at the ball. The ball is going to come and land in, or the firefight will continue. So hopefully I was able to make that clear. Hopefully the pictures are clear. I'm sure we'll be going over that again in another point in the thing. But the biggest problem here is paddle's low, so it has to go high. Now, because it's now high, it's swinging down, and the paddle face has to open, and you basically have a very small window of success, whereas the paddle should already be high. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the area where I was. The paddle should be high so that it can prep low and finish high. Okay, with that, let's move on to the next one, and we'll watch the next point all the way through. Logan's turn to serve. Okay, quick point. And Pickle Lee is going to keep picking on Kevin until he can prove that he can handle any of these speed ups. So it appears Daniel is not changing the strategy. They are going after Logan. So let's discuss that on, is that a good strategy? It is a very poor strategy, and it's very poor for a lot of people that think, hey, I'm a 3-5 player, I'm a 4-0 player, let's attack the weaker player over there. And they looked up Pickle Lee's and Logan's DUPR ahead of time. They're like, oh, well, Logan's statistically worse, and he's playing the right side. We're going to go after him, okay? Why is that a worse idea in this situation? We're just going to go forward here real quick. As you can see, when they're hitting the ball to Logan, Pickle Lee is moving up. So the better player is now getting closer to the kitchen and he's also on the left-hand side, so he is now going to be able to attack and do things. We aren't holding back the better player. Okay? And I'm not going to back it all the way up, but when the ball has gone to Pickle, who has also stayed back with Pickle, Logan. So if you hit the ball to Pickle, you're getting 2 for the price of 1 of keeping people back. That is something you should always be paying attention to when playing is, hey, is there a person who's not coming up if the other person is hitting it, and therefore then keep hitting it to that person? This is the worst scenario where you're basically hoping that Logan is so bad, that his drops are so bad that he's going to hit him into the net or drive the ball out and that kind of stuff. What we want to do is keep the better player back longer. Also, you may wear them out over time if you're doing, 2 best out of 3 or something like that, where you're playing multiple games. If you're wearing that person out right here, this is the best example. Once Pickle sees that this is going to be a good drop, look how he just crashes in on the net and gives Daniel no time. All that, and they literally moved up off of a single shot. That is occurring because Pickle is playing correctly, and Daniel and Kevin are literally giving that to him. If you've ever watched Ben Johns and Annalie Waters play, when this exact thing occurs where someone returns the ball to Annalie and she's playing on the right-hand side, Ben Johns literally often looks back and watches the ball and smiles of like, I'm getting to move free up to the kitchen. I never get to do that. I'm literally catching a break. And then he comes up and does essentially this same thing, okay? So in this scenario, once again, Kevin isn't going to be fooled. He sees him load up. He has plenty of, obviously, like, oh, this is going to be there. And once again, the issue is right here, staring us at the face again. His paddle is going, is well below his belly button and is down before the shot comes. And therefore, as you see, he has to lift it up. And it's either he's lifting it up, and this time he doesn't have as much time as the previous time. The previous time, I'm just going to move this forward again right here. The previous time, he was able to get the paddle way up here, like almost to his shoulder, and then was having time to cut back down at the ball. This ball was quicker, and he didn't have that time, and so as we talked about, paddle stroke up, you don't have that time. You're now stroking up, ball go. We're always going to go to yellow. Ball goes up. And let's just wash this one out. Ball goes up. And so I just can't stress enough. This is one of the reasons why we do these courses where we're now looking at amateur videos. So you can see these mistakes that a lot of the pros aren't making. And when you don't see the pros doing it, it's hard to understand what you're doing that's differently than the pros. But I guarantee that there are quite a few people watching this video. They have this ready position, and this is why they're like, man, why don't I have as fast a hands, or why did the ball always go out? It is in where your paddle is sitting. Get the butt of the paddle above your belly button, and then 2, have the paddle follow the ball. Kevin actually does a pretty decent job of having his paddle follow the ball. It's not great, but it's definitely not the worst I've seen in any regard. It's just he is standing way too straight up and down, not low enough in his legs, in a good enough ready position, and then the paddle is literally, down by his hip or below. Okay, moving on to the next point. Let's watch this one all the way through. We are now getting into a very clear pattern of how these drives and drops are going to occur. Okay, moving on back. Let's look at this one more time. Once again, going to Logan. Logan's now not even returning to hitting his third to the person coming up, which he had a lot of extra time with Kevin coming up. And this shot, I just wanted to show this very clearly because this has probably happened to you at some point. the drop is coming in. It's a decent drop. It's not a great drop. That ball would go probably 3 to 5 feet past the kitchen line, right? He's easily taking that out of the air, not even extending. He's literally hitting it real close to his legs. So if he was fully extended, he could have caught that ball out a lot further. But see how tentatively and soft and defensive this fourth shot is, okay? The entire reason why Daniel is feeling he has to hit this tentative is because of exactly what Pickle Lee is doing. He's saying, hey, man, this is the lane I'm giving you. That's all the space you get. You better hit it in that space or you're going to get attacked. And that is what is giving Daniel doesn't feel the ability that he can reach out and attack that ball. And so this is how right here, Pickle Lee is making his partner's shot better by his court position. Okay, then we dink it over there. In my opinion, this shot, Daniel should have been more aggressive. This ball's really high. He should have jumped this, should have earned this, and just crushed the ball at his opponent. If you do go out drilling, sometimes you should practice earnies. You're never going to do them in a game unless you just sit there and have someone feed you balls and you just jump it over and over and over again. It's not a hard drill by any means. It's just learning what to see, how high do you feel you need it, and once that you anticipate it, it becomes a very easy shot to do. So let's back this up just real quick. I just want to show this. So Daniel and Kevin are technically in a +2 offensive position. At worst, you would say a +1 because Pickle Lee's about to get there, but they're definitely in offensive position in comparison to the defensive position of Logan. They aren't. Daniel and Kevin are in offense. Daniel hits a defensive shot, very clearly a defensive shot, gets another shot, does a defensive dink again when he was still in offense. Logan is not at the kitchen line. Now neutral occurred, and Daniel's hit defensive shots, and now they get into a very short dink battle, which all of these dinks are very high. And here's the one thing where you can tell the difference between, levels. Let's assume Kevin's level is correct and he's a 4.0, and let's assume Pickle Lee's rating is correct and he's a 4.8. This position and posture, watch how Kevin is knees bent, butts back, and he has a slight tilt in his from his waist, not a lot, but a little bit, and he is leaning forward out to get this ball. He hits this ball well above the net before it drops down, and that's the big difference. All these guys, Kevin and Daniel, I'm just going to go back to, let's not do that. Let's do this. This paddle position, there's only two options. The ball's going to go up, and it's going to go up so vertically that it can come down super short. That's one. Or it's going to go up so vertically and go too far and then get hit. And that's based off of the paddle angle and the stroke. And so taking these out of the air, unless you're attacking this ball, you want to move your legs if you want to keep the dinks lower and give yourself, this is a defensive shot, and it ends horribly because you're in a neutral position and you're hitting a defensive shot. If you're in a defensive position while dinking, that's totally fine. Hit a defensive dink. But you're not going to defensively dink somebody to death once you get above, even nowadays, above really a 3.0 level. Okay, looks like somebody called a timeout, and we're just jumping on forward to it. Logan's turn to serve. We're moving on to the next point. Let's watch this one all the way through. Daniel getting much more aggressive, deciding to attack balls he should attack. That was nice to see. Let's back this up. We're going to go through it again. So still they're going after Logan. Not a great strategy, but this is so much better. Daniel's saying, hey, we're down 5 points. We got to go. I've got to hit offensive shots is clearly an offensive shot when we're in offensive position. Pickle Lee tries to reset it, gets it up really high. They try and reset it again, and Logan can't get that. So I like everything about that. That's a million times better on Kevin and Daniel. And the decisions, nice job. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Going to watch this one all the way through. Just backing this up, I wanted to see this technique from Daniel because he's having a tough time when he shifts. Okay, so that's what I thought I saw. See how slow he comes out of the box? He's like walking it. This is completely what you don't want to do. You've hit the ball. Whether it's in or out, it's now out of your control. Get moving to where you should be. You got to unwind the stack as soon as possible. Get over there. Because he's so slow here, he's now trying to run around to a forehand, which, because he was so slow, he should have taken as a backhand. His feet are literally touching each other. If you want to know of how much success someone's going to have, look how close their feet are. You're going to have very little success hitting drop shots with your feet touching, and that's exactly what occurs. And he's frustrated, and he's like, why did I make that kind of error? The issue was here on you've hit the ball, one slow step, two slow step, and then, oh, I got to get around it. So if you're going to be that slow, just plan on hitting backhands. But I would recommend hit the serve and immediately start moving. I would also be back further from the kitchen line so that your actual momentum can even carry you over there. Because right here, he's basically moving sideways and back now, which that ball did bounce up into his body because he's standing too close to the baseline. Okay, good point. Good learning opportunity. Let's move on to the next one. Kevin's turn to serve. We're going to watch this all the way through. Okay. I like this decision by Pickle Lee because he basically puts it to Daniel, even though the immediate adage would be like, hey, there's a big backhand of Kevin, just hit it over there. But Daniel hasn't hit very many successful thirds, and Kevin's not coming up aggressively at all. And so, like we said, you're getting two for the price of one. When they're hitting it to Daniel right here, Kevin's staying back. Keep hitting it to Daniel. Even if Daniel gets the third shot in, who cares? They're back. You can now look at, I'm just going to put it over there. No pressure whatsoever. And Daniel doesn't set his feet appropriately and or really move to where the ball is at. There's a big hole on his backhand side by the way he's running in. And one of the reasons for that is because they are both moving this. I don't know if they thought the ball was going to be land further to the left or the intent was to get further to the left, but that's a pretty big hole based on where the ball is at. I have no problem. Like right here, you can see Daniel's white sneaker right there, and it's right on this middle line. That is not a bad spot to be if the ball is here over. The ball wasn't there over. We're going to back this up. There's where the ball bounced. And that's where it all really falls apart because also, as you can see, Daniel's feet are still moving. This is where the ball is crossing the plane of the net, somewhere in there. Feet are still moving, still moving, still moving, and then have to go get it. You're going to have a rough time doing that. You're just never set. You're going to make a lot of unforced errors. And in my opinion, that's an unforced error. And the reason he made the unforced error is because he didn't stop moving forward, get his feet set, and get low when the ball crossed the plane of the net. Okay, moving on to the next one. It was a good learning opportunity. Let's watch this one all the way through. And it is a pick on Kevin by Pickle Lee game. As soon as Pickle Lee gets a ball, he's basically saying, you guys are going to target my partner, which they are. I'm going to target your guy. So a drive, I would have liked to seen Pickle Lee go up a little bit more. This is not hit that hard, so I can understand why he's staying back. But he definitely didn't put very much pressure, and he broke a little bit of the cardinal rule. The cardinal rule is the person who hits the third shot, which was Logan, should never beat you up to the net. You're clearly doing something wrong. You have become a spectator. And so let's just back this up so we can see where Pickle Lee becomes a spectator. Watch this. Right here, he becomes a spectator. He's like, ooh, this is a nice game of pickle to watch. I'm enjoying this. And then he's behind, which allows this ball to come in, and it's lower than it needed to be. Now, did it still work out in his favor? Yes, but if he was playing a higher level player, this ball is going to get counterattacked right at him, and he's going to be eating it for lunch. It doesn't because of who he's playing against. But this ball was much, much lower because he was late moving up when he should have been. What should have occurred is right here. Let's back it up a little more. This is a drive. When your partner drives it, it's full go. But you got to already be here at point of contact so that you can be here when the ball is crossing the plane of the net. And so when you're this late, it's rough. The next part of this is ball comes back here. See, he knows right here he's not going to hit this ball. Look at his feet. If you're looking at Pickle Lee's feet, you can see that he inherently knows I'm not going for that ball right there. See how that foot moves? And he should then continue forward, taking ground so he can apply pressure, not just sit and watch pickleball. Okay, now let's get into this. So Kevin slides. I don't have a problem with slide. The slide's a little late, but that's fine on the slide. He doesn't get low, and the paddle comes up again. The paddle comes from low to high. The paddle is very close to a particular male genitalia, and so it has to come up, and there it's just a pop-up. So what we talked about in the previous one, the stroke is this. If you don't have time to then have to come down here and reopen up the wrist, the only thing that's going to happen is you are swinging up, hard surface, hard ball, ball is going to go, and the ball is going to go up. And that is exactly what happens here. Comes over, creates the pop-up. See how he even tries to open his wrist, still the pop-up, and Pickle Lee just gets to put it down. And your opponent will keep speeding it up at you until you can prove that you can hit a counter that's not going up. Okay, quick point there. The one other thing that I wanted to point out, and I almost skipped it, but right here, watch when the speed up comes. Kevin jumps back, and that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to jump back because now you're back, and he just went back again, and your feet are exposed. I'm not saying him with his technique in this situation, he would have won it. But if he did have proper technique and he kept falling back, he still most likely would lose the battle. If this ball that goes straight down and that literally goes under his paddle, it went under his paddle because he is now further away from the kitchen line. He's so tall, if he was at the kitchen line and reaching out, he may have even been able to take that ball out of the air. It doesn't hit in the kitchen. That ball hits 2 to 3 feet past the kitchen line. He could have easily volleyed that ball and then kept the hands battle going. Okay, good learning opportunity there. Let's move on to the next one. Gonna watch this one all the way through. Ooh, I like it. Pickle Lee's now deciding to get a little more aggressive on these. Sees that it's going to be a good drop. Sees just goes up and puts pressure on him. I love it. And he's definitely gotten those shots before. Just a little too much on the counter. Ball sails long. But that was a good shot by Daniel. Put a lot of pressure on him. Pickle Lee almost got it. But I'm very, very happy with how this is. So we're just backing it up. Good serve. Once again, they're going to Logan. When you see this occur right here, if you are hitting a ball to a particular person and their partner gets to do this on a drop, change who you're hitting it to. Just try it the other way. See what happens. That is not the situation you want to be giving in. You don't want to give up that much court when someone's getting to hit a drop. Okay. Moving on to the next one. I believe it is Pickle's turn to serve. Yes, it is. We're going to watch this one all the way through. Might be our longest dink battle. Okay. Okay, we're going to get in on this. Okay, once again, over 2. I'm just letting you know, like right here, this is really where this breaks down for me, is they're also unwinding the stack. And so this is what I was talking about earlier. I couldn't tell you if they were hitting the ball straight ahead or if they were trying to get it to Logan. Now we can very clearly say they don't care where they're at. They're trying to get the ball to Logan. Look at all this backhand here. All this is Pickle's backhand, and which would keep him back. And all you got to do is hit it straight ahead, and you get a forehand ball, and you still hit it over to Logan. That is just recognizing the wrong things, and you learn those things through watching video. One of this was, look how far Daniel now has to run. Luckily, they didn't hit a drive, but he had to come much further. So they get into this dink battle. This is and this is why we're watching 4.0 level players here instead of pro players, so we can learn things. Right now, this is where the ball's at. I'm circling Kevin's feet because he's the blocker. The blocker needs to move up to the kitchen line to block. He is 3 to 5 feet off the kitchen line. The reason that's a problem is when you get an attackable ball, which this was very attackable. Look how high that ball goes. He wants to attack it, and then he goes, oh, man, I can't attack it. And so he just gave up an opportunity, and he hits the dink cross court. If he was up on that kitchen line and this soft shot comes, he could have smashed that ball down. So now we're into this dink battle. And I didn't notice this before because Pickle is blocking a lot of it. But if you look closely, Daniel's running around to his forehand right here. He's hitting that as a forehand. His right foot sneaker is in between Pickle's feet if you look on the camera. And it's basically touching the sideline. So there is a hole from about here all the way to here. Put the ball anywhere. So that's one thing that Pickle's saying is, hey man, I'm just trying to get. If they can give me the ball, I'm full go on this. This is one of the reasons why you don't really want to run around your dinks, because it creates these giant holes that are very hard to deal with. Right now, because of Daniel's decision, they are in a defensive position. They just are. And Kevin needs to move much further over. He needs to be up here. That's about as best you can do, is be up and feet completely straddling that center line to get as big a target as you can to try and close that hole as much as possible. And that's exactly what occurs. So Daniel chooses to run around the shot, hits a dink, and then he's trying to get back to a better position. So his feet are, this is where the ball is crossing the plane of the net. And he is moving. He's going to take 2 or 3 steps after this. He takes 2 full steps. Can't tell. I think he takes 3 steps. That's 1. Oh, yeah, he takes 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. And all Logan has to do is put the ball right back to where he was, because it's like, okay, you're trying to leave that spot. And that's just you're just killing yourself because you're giving up court position to run around to a forehand. This was not, let's back it up here. This ball right here is a dink to the backhand or attackable. And this is the big mistake, is that this choosing to run around it. If you run around this ball and you watch some of the pros, there are some that love to run around this. They come from tennis. You're going to very much go hard this way because you're going to your opponent's backhand and you're trying to put as much spin on it as possible, and also to alleviate and cut the angle down of what angles your opponent have, because you're utilizing your partner in that scenario. Going back straight ahead when you're out of position most likely will end poorly. Okay, let's move on to the next one. That was a good point. We hadn't had a point like that before, so I'm glad we got to see that at this level. Going to watch this point all the way through. One thing to comment on that I always like to point out is the highest rated DUPR player on this doesn't have that strong of a serve. This is nothing that's that significant, right? But he's not missing serves. He's not giving away an opportunity where he can score points. So this is the first third shot drop that Pickle Lee has hit in forever. It's been a very long time, and he's doing this hop again. And look, it sails. So almost all of his thirds have been sailing. I know he's hit very few of them. Daniel needs to get much more aggressive on taking this as an opportunity and hitting that much harder. The way he could hit that a lot harder is, as we can see, his legs are basically vertical. His feet are together. We need to get our feet wide. We need to get our butt back by sitting down. And then we can either rotate counterclockwise on the backhand and do that backhand roll that is so famous, putting the ball right here, crushing hard at your opponent's feet. Or if he was feet wide, butt down, sitting down, he could just hit a hard flicking backhand right here at Logan's feet and end this point. There's no reason why he is not able to essentially end this point right here with how high that ball is. This take the foot back is not putting anywhere near enough power or spin into this ball to make it difficult on your opponent. Okay, now they're getting into dinking. One thing I like to point out is Daniel is, when he's using his backhand, he's hitting the ball a lot to his opponent's forehand. You see that? He's like, okay, this is my forehand. I'm just going to hit it to my opponent's backhand. Or, sorry, it's my forehand. I'm hitting it to my opponent's forehand. And then he just stays on that forehand no matter where the ball comes to him. And then errors are occurring. And what he needs to do, this hyper focus on Logan is really hurting Kevin and Daniel. I mean, they are just trying to not hit the ball to Pickle Lee because he sped the ball up a bunch of times at Kevin. And so they're like, hey, dude, we got, like, stop doing that. And so now what's occurring is they're basically trying to play on this amount of the court. And very hard to win when your opponent has the whole court and you're playing in this size of court. Because, one, they don't have to move very much, and they can just keep isolating you. This is a difficult point to see because where Pickle Lee's body is based off the camera. We'd love to have a higher camera angle so I could really see how this breaks down. But this just soft volley is what you want to get away from. People talk about, oh, you're cutting time from your opponent. When the ball's moving this slow and agile to them, you're not cutting time from anybody. Look, Logan's there. He doesn't even have to move his feet after he gets set. He's just getting to do whatever he wants, and he's putting the ball at your feet. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This game is obviously going in Pickle Lee and Logan's favor. Not surprising based off of the disparity in the DUPR rating. Have a return that's just long. I just want to see how he moves into it. Yeah. So this happens to a lot of people. And we're just going to watch Daniel's feet. So earlier he got 3 steps into the ball, was moving forward. This time he gets essentially 1 step. So he kind of does a shuffle. And then that's the 1 step, that left foot coming across, which makes him therefore swing. See that pickup swing like that right there? Boom. And his paddle's ending above his head. That is normally going to end poorly for people because you're swinging up like that. You're not having your body go through the ball, pushing the ball forward. What you really want to think about on a return, this is not tennis. The court is much shorter. You want to move your body through the ball. The most important thing on a return is not deep. That's what everybody hears. There's lots of junk videos on YouTube. The video evidence does not lie. The most important thing on a return is getting to the kitchen line. So what you want your body moving through the ball, getting to the kitchen line, not having your feet coming together like this for Daniel, and then him just swinging up on the ball, trying to use arm power to put the ball deep and then producing an unforced error, not even landing close. Okay, moving on to the next point. We'll watch this one all the way through. And that is the game. Let's back that up and take a look at this one. This will obviously be our last point. So Daniel and Kevin decide to stay because it's 10-1. They decide to not unwind the stack, try that out. And they backhands down the middle. And Piccoli makes the right decision. He recognizes it, and he's just going to hit a drop to the backhands, take no risk. They're just going to keep trying to go off the backhands. And Kevin comes up extremely slowly and actually runs to the wrong part of the court and puts the ball right into the net. So just real quick, where should Kevin have run? I would have him come up a little bit further this way. And the only reason I say that is because Daniel really came over significantly. In an ideal world, you do want your person who's already at the net taking the 4th shot. So I have no problem with Daniel getting big in this situation. The problem is Kevin's not recognizing that and basically goes, wait, what are you doing there? And just runs into his partner and then has to try and get his feet set to the ball. Also, the fact that forced him into hitting a backhand when he could have been hitting a forehand. And obviously, I think there was just a mental error in that. Well, that was this game, guys. This is course 252. I hope this helped you learn a lot. If you're a 3-5 or 4-0, there were a ton of examples of things that are probably happening in your game that you can take away from this video and immediately take those onto the court and start winning more points. This is Champs Pickleball. I've been your professor. We'll see you on the next one.